another advantage of AI.
You got a microphone.
I've got a wee microphone here set. I know, so I mean, this is going to be windy. Just what you can do is try and cover it, because that's the mic. That's the mic here, yeah.
You could do
you can cover that a little bit.
Where are you? Where are you?
You can do a sound.
You're there. Let me.
Well, there's no sound check on that.
I need to put this down. I need to put this in. I need to get comfortable.
Wait, that's where the sound is.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, it is that on that side maybe. You get less of it. But even so, we've got recorder here, so when our they roll, it's going to be noisy. Let's just see what there. They are there. 3 people sitting there. Welcome, you guys. It is a bit windy, so you're going to get a bit of wind. But if it's really annoying, you can message on here, and Addy can see if he can cover the sound some way or other. But oh, it's here actually, the mic. Isn't it? My mistake. The mic is here. It's on that side actually. That's the bit that you want, basically facing that way. Gets a bit. See what I mean? Like this. This is the mic here. Yeah. So if you're on this side, that will cover a bit of it.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's blowing against that, and it won't hit against the. It's when the wind blows directly against that side here that's going to make a difference.
We're just training the film at the minute.
Yeah.
We're just training. We're still in training.
You
need to perform. You need to perform.
You're directly in the wind now.
And people are watching.
Yeah, but they're just hearing the wind now. All they can hear is the wind now.
Technical problem with the film.
So you've got to be on that side. You've got to be on that side. That side. This is where the mic is.
We're live.
But this is where the mic. This is where the mic is.
See how unprofessional this is.
Don't worry.
You see what talent does.
It's not professional putting the fucking thing on
when
no one can hear.
And it's got a microphone on as well.
It's speaker's corner.
You see talent. It's got a microphone on.
Yeah, but
Not
that's
knowing
how to do it. Or how do you know you can't hear it yet?
It's a separate thing.
How do you know you can't hear
No,
it?
it's not can't hear. They can hear all right. But the point is, if it's that's the microphone, right?
Right.
So if the wind's blowing against that, it's just going to get.
Right.
That's all you're going to hear. So that's why.
So
that's
is
why
it? Have you got a Bluetooth
and I've got this, but that's not
microphone?
connected.
Right. Why don't
I
you
can
connect
sync
it?
up afterwards. It's not a Bluetooth mic. It's a separate mic. Completely separate. And here we are. Look, you said no one would come. Here they all are.
These are your
No one coming.
Because he's a man of little faith. And then he wants to like get me arrested straight away with some
So you should be.
wild charge. Wild question.
can't you? Don't be a coward.
I said to Piers, why don't you do that? I better watch what I say there, otherwise they'll say I'm inciting people to go and get arrested for supporting me. So I can't say I did that. Well, that's right. I did have fun yesterday. I made a recording yesterday, which I'm quite proud of that one. I thought it was quite a nice little capture, quite a nice little snippet of what's going on.
Bongo's music for your recordings.
As we know, we competed on that song.
He couldn't afford
We
it.
competed on that song, and we've got 2 versions. His one and mine. Mine is better than his. He thinks his is better than mine. And so
Bongo thinks it's pretty good.
It's a clash.
Pretty good.
A clash on the Marseillaise. But it was your invention first of all, and I did the secondary version with a top singer. With a top singer who does the full. What's it called? The one where you get the full vibrato. So I'll put that on one day. We can have a direct clash of the songs. So where we go today? You can be my guide. Not you and your Bell Hotel. He's anti people going to the Bell Hotel, and here he is with an India shirt on. I went to Goa on a boat.
This is an exercise in anti-socialism. See how many people like
The India flag.
What's an Anglo-Saxon doing? We're in a
Well, don't forget we own India. Don't forget last time I was speaking about this question about British in India. Some guy came up to me and he goes, "It's not true. When British went to India, they had to prove who they were." That's a bloody lie. I checked it afterwards, as you do. When I'm challenged at Speaker's Corner, it's always possible I make a mistake. And therefore, it's possible. It's extremely rare, but it is possible. And therefore, I did do a check, and when I checked, it confirmed I was correct, that the British did not have to prove who they were when they arrived in India, but the Indians had to prove who they were to the British occupiers.
Right, too.
British discovered this.
And here you are, the equivalent of Uncle Tom
Thank you very
from
much.
India.
My mother's Moroccan and my father's from Cuba. So
Exactly, from India.
So,
From India, a boat person staying in a 5-star hotel, pretending to be
I own
English.
the hotel.
so you
There
said,
you go.
You said
I
last-
noticed that Tommy Robinson
No, you said
has been
last week
invited
about
to join a
ID.
party led by a Pakistani. I noticed that, but that's only on the side.
Bangladeshi.
Because next week, of course, we're about to have the clash of civilization
Oh, we said the class again.
in about free speech. On the 13th of September, there is going to be a giant free speech event
Oh no, this.
organised by Tommy Tommy. I don't need to. What are you doing?
Well, you-
What are you doing, Sam?
You're
What are you
promoting it.
doing? I'm promoting what? I'm talking about the Tommy Tommy! And Tommy is going to stand up for free speech. He's invited free speech speakers. There aren't any from Britain, of course. So he's invited many free speech advocates from all around the world, because we don't have
Does he
any
invite
free
Russell
speech
Brand?
advocates at Speaker's Corner. And he's got his new mate, Russell Brand, on board.
Is that true?
He's got who's the Canadian guy again? Jordan Peterson. If you think that Jordan Peterson, I keep trying to learn how he speaks, but every time I do it, I fuck up. It's that strange weird. It's that strange weird thing.
Class, Mr. Speaker.
Jordan Peterson isn't.
Well, he's a twat.
So I'm not a twat.
I didn't say
Is that
that.
the is that the implication? No, that's right. But you did point out one aspect, and then you ignored the other.
He's just a much bigger twat than you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
wouldn't
After
say-
after decades of speaking at Speaker's Corner, I'm glad to hear that you are taking my meeting. We felt for 40 years has led you to conclude that I'm not a twat. I'm glad to hear that. 40 years this man's been stalking me at Speaker's Corner. 40 years. How are you, my friend?
Okay, I've come to have a chat with you about your description of China last week.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Right, so what you was actually saying, I really need to have this video. They haven't saying, do you want to put this up?
It's
for
on
me?
video.
No, you never put my videos up.
Leave the Dickensian children being exploited by you. Leave them alone.
I was saying,
Video it.
I was saying, come and put this up. You never put my videos up.
Can't we just
You've always said you do, but you don't.
This
Anyway.
is live.
All right, okay.
It's live on
Oh,
the
right.
internet now.
Right.
You are live.
Right, let's describe.
Come on!
Let's have your description of China last week. How they allow the institutions, but they control them. Do you remember you were saying?
I said they allow private companies to
Film it.
operate, but they control the private companies that operate.
Right, and
That's
I
what
will say
like.
to you that is the epitome of fascism. Because through fascism, and you know, and I could see you as a bit meek where you saying it, because you understand. Fascism is where you've got the big stick in the middle, surrounded by the little sticks, with the axe represents the weapon, and it's all tied together, controlled by. So what I'm actually saying to you, and I said it to you guys outside. I said it to you guys outside Australia House in October, the first time I met you, when I made that speech outside Australia House. I said that China actually is National Socialist, fascist.
Well, I don't agree with you.
I know you don't, but that's what I've come to tell you. But you, in your own
You haven't
words,
told me to come to discuss.
yeah, in your own
It's a
words,
discussion framework. Is it you have one opinion, I have another opinion, discuss. Is that what you mean?
yeah.
Okay, so I'm happy to do that. I think China is the most important country in the world at the moment for the fate of humanity.
Absolutely.
I think the fate of humanity will be decided in China. That's what I think. So for many years, I focused on that question. I started studying China in 1989. I went to China in 1989 during the protests that were taking place there. I worked in China shortly after that. I've studied Chinese political economy.
Are you a Chinese communist? But why do you think
If I was in China, I would be a member of the Communist Party.
Have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
No, but I have written for the Chinese press for a period of 11 years. I was a journalist
So
for the
you are
Chinese press
indeed a
for a
red.
period of 11
Right.
years. Some people said I'm an agent of the Chinese. I was never an agent of the Chinese. They never told me what I should
never
write.
paid enough.
Sometimes they censored parts of what I wrote, although I should point out that I was in a Marxist group in Britain which claimed to be in favour of socialist Marxist ideas, and they censored me more than the Chinese censored me. So that was
can I answer?
the international Marxist tendency
Can I
in
answer?
Britain,
Can I
who've got no power whatsoever. They censored me more about China than the Chinese censored me about China. In fact, the Chinese used to ask me to write articles about Xi Jinping.
Get this to
Can I answer? Of humanity is going to be
Get this, get
by
some-
China.
Well, Karl Marx argued, going back to Karl Marx, Karl Marx argued that the fate of humanity will be determined by the fate of the working classes. The working classes, when Marx was writing and living in London, the largest conurbation and constellation of the working classes was in England. There were something like 2.8 million workers in England around 1848-49 when Marx first moved to England. There are now 800 million workers in China. Why the working class? Because the working class organise and produce the wealth of the world. That is why the working class. Marx argued that the class which will run society in future will be that class which administers and controls production in a democratic form of the produce of the world. The dominant working class in the entire planet is based in China. The working classes of Europe and the United States of America have declined proportionately as the working class of China have increased. There is no greater working class, there is no better producing working class, there is no more sophisticated working class than those of China today. And therefore, if the argument is correct that the fate of humanity is determined by the conflict between social classes, then China has in its hands the potential to transform the entire world. The reason why China has become the pole of attraction for people in Africa, for people in South America, for people in India, for people in Southeast Asia, is precisely because they have shown that independent of Europe and America, which dominated and colonized India, Africa, South America, and prevented the development of those countries and those continents of the world, China, when it engages with those countries that we used to call the third world, or that are called, or were called colonies, or were called post-colonial regimes, China, when it engages with those countries, it facilitates their development, whereas Britain, France, Italy, Germany, America always hindered the development of those countries. China facilitates the development of Africa. China facilitates the development of South America. They give them resources. They don't just go there. When the Americans, the French, the British go to Africa, say they used to go to the Congo, they made a deal with the ruler of the Congo called Mobutu. They got the copper from the Congo in exchange for money. The money that went to the Congo went to Mobutu's pocket. And then he took that money, bought himself a house in Switzerland, in France, in Italy, in Germany, and so on, and transferred the money he got from the copper from the Congo to Swiss bank accounts. And in that way, Nothing was left in the Congo from the use of copper. So it was with coltan, so it was with lithium, so it was with all the rare earth metals extracted to make your mobile phone function, to make your computer function. They are extracted from the Congo, from Central Africa, from East Africa. They're extracted from those regions and transported to Western corporations to accumulate cash for the owners of those corporations. But nothing is left by the Western corporations in the countries that they took the resources from. That is why India, Africa and South America and Southeast Asia remain undeveloped. You go to India, I went in 2015, okay, 10 years ago, but I bet it's not much different. I went to India in 2015, landed in New Delhi. You get out the airport in New Delhi, at least this was then. I got a taxi at the airport. There's a smart road. It goes 500 meters. And when you got past 500 meters, it turns to dust. And all around you is shanty towns. For miles and miles and miles, shanty towns. Millions and millions of people living in shanty towns on the edge of the city. Their votes are secured by politicians who corruptly purchase their votes in exchange for a few facilities they offer to the people in exchange for the vote. It's barely any different. I put you, it's barely any different in India today. When were you last?
3 years ago.
And how is it different?
Well, it's different that they use time, road, and it's
Maybe they but the development, you compare the development.
So let me ask you.
You compare the development in 1989 in India and China to today, India and China. China is a modern, far more, when you've got everyone everyone I've met in recent years who's gone to China comes to me and says, no matter what their politics, they say to me, it's absolutely astounding the way China is. I didn't expect it to be anything like that. It's nothing like they say. Everybody I have met who's honestly reporting what it's like in China has said the same thing. So I asked you to do the same thing. Go onto the internet and look up not just the Steve Bannon and Epoch Times reports about China, which all claim that China is run. I saw Jordan Peterson, to go back to him, I saw a little video of him the other day. He says China's got 780 million cameras watching what everyone does, everywhere you go, everything you do. It is not true. It is not true. There is no social credit system in China. There is no such thing. They tried in some locations to test out a social credit system. And in fact, while they're rolling out facial recognition in Britain, it has now been prohibited in China from using facial recognition in the way they were using before. The social credit system in China is a system for monitoring the activities of private corporations. It is not a system for monitoring the general population. Yes, private corporations, because everybody knows that private corporations get up to malicious activity. If you don't realise that Palantir, that Google, that Facebook are monitoring you, surveying you, watching you, controlling you, if you don't realise that they are controlling you, not the Chinese state, not the Chinese government, the British and American corporations are watching you on a minute-by-minute basis. We are under a more totalitarian system of surveillance in Europe and America today than China is and that the Soviet Union ever was.
Can I respond?
Can indeed. 1 minute.
Right, now I absolutely agree with you 100%. China is the most important country in the world today. 100% I agree with you. But the question was how you described the control that the central government has over, what would you call them, institutions or corporations?
The question arose because of this. when I was in another political group called the International Marxist Tendency.
Last week.
In 2000, I know, but I'm going to explain the background.
No, I only heard a couple of words. Is it institutions?
It'll be worth your while knowing.
No, listen to me. I want to respond to you.
I'm not talking about institutions, all institutions.
Well, look, I agree with you.
I'm talking about private sector, large-scale corporations. The difference between capitalism and China is that under capitalism, the large corporations control the society. They control the everyday life of the people. We all think we live in a democracy, but as soon as you go to work, you live under a totalitarian dictatorship.
100%.
If you work in Pret a Manger,
100%, yes.
you wear a
We're not talking
uniform,
about
you
this
do the tasks that you are told to by a supervisor who controls your activity all day long.
Right.
And your means of living is a totalitarian dictatorship.
Right.
And then they tell you, oh, but when you finish work, you're free. But of course, on the mobile phone, on your computer, on your tracking everything you're doing, they're also watching what you do as a consumer in the society. Now, even if you've got an opinion on Palestine and you oppose the slaughter of children by Israel in the most barbaric slaughter since the Second World War, since the Holocaust, if you oppose that, you get arrested for holding a piece of paper. Holding a piece of paper in England. Piers was arrested yesterday. Probably why he's not here today. As were some 850 people yesterday. I saw people there being arrested who were 80 and older years of age, dragged by the police. There was a guy fell on the floor. I think he broke his leg, and the police were barging up. I was lucky to be able to help stopping this person being stamped on and killed yesterday. That's how mad the situation is in Britain. The police are acting as agents of, as you say, Mossad. That's what the police are acting on behalf of. Mossad. That's who they act on behalf of. And the entire establishment in Britain and in the United States, including Donald Trump, the man who stood for free speech, as we are told, and Tommy Robinson, who says he's in favour of free speech,
Don't forget
we are
Nigel
told,
Farage.
and Nigel Farage, who says he's in favour of free speech. They all support the Holocaust taking place now against the Palestinian people. If you imagine that what they're doing against the Palestinians is not preparation for what they'll do against you, you're living in cuckoo land. Why do you think they're developing all these technologies? The drones, the surveillance, the weapons of destruction. They are all mechanisms for controlling the entire world's population into the future. That's what Palestine is the testing ground of, what they're prepared to do to you, to the people here, to the goose that lays the golden egg while you're living under a totalitarian regime while you go to work. And then they also, oh, you should get a fucking job and go to work. You should contribute by going and getting a job. In other words, you should become a tool of a totalitarian dictatorship over the people. That's what they're saying to you. That's the purpose in life. So that one day, maybe, if you're lucky, when you shat on a load of other people and climbed up the hierarchy to the third tier level of control, and you're a supervisor at McDonald's or equivalent, so that you can then turn around and say, I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to pay a mortgage for 30 years so that I can have something to give my children in 30 years' time. And then when you get close to the 30 years, they rob you of that as well. That's the con they put on people. After decade after decade. The reason why I am hopeful about China is because the Chinese, contrary to what you say, or contrary to what is said, the Chinese do not take shit. They don't take shit. When people tell them do this, do that at work, they just say, fuck you. Fuck you, we're not going to do it. Or they organise and combine together. They're not just slaves, contrary to what they make out. They're not simply slaves. they begin to organise and combine together. And when they do so, they will shake the entire world.
They're already doing it.
Right, no, that's a very good, that's a good point. I agree with so much of what you're saying, and nearly always do, as you know. But let me ask you the question, the simple one. I'm pretty concerned. That is, while China are growing in influence, are the Americans going to stand back and let that happen? In which case, if they don't, I fear war in this world. I do. I feel war. I feel war coming.
Right, this is about. Right, I wasn't comparing the corporate takeover to the West. We all know that the West has been taken over by the corporations. I was talking about the control of the institutions or the corporations in China. Right, is basically Mussolini's fascism. Now, if you go into the Congress in the United States of America, if you go into the Congress or into the Senate, right, they have the big stick with the little sticks tied up with the axe inside Congress, which was built hundreds of years, a couple of hundred years ago or 150 years ago. Right? Fascism is only being discredited through Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. Right? As a socialist, can you bear the fact that Colonel Douglas MacGregor talks about fascism it just means the unity of the nation through the tying up of the sticks, tied everything together. Mussolini to become fascist through the control of all the little sticks around it, tightly controlled by China. Listen, I don't believe China, through its history, has ever had imperialistic intentions. I don't believe that China wants the imperialistic intentions, but America had, right? But human nature, John Mearsheimer says, through human nature, they go that way. But I'm just asking you as a person, how would you cope with it if what we're seeing now in China is a form of fascism? Me personally, I just think it's a unified of the...
You've answered your own question.
You can come out with lots of terms to describe something. You can also look at the terms that are used, and then you can compare those terms to what they're supposed to mean. So officially, China is run by a communist party. No one's going to dispute that. Officially, no one's going to dispute it's run by a communist party.
I think it's all...
You and who else?
I don't believe they're communists. They're the most capitalist nation on earth. When was the last time you made love with a woman?
Let me try now. So the argument I'm making is the Chinese Communist Party.
What's that got to do with the Chinese Communist Party?
My question.
So the Chinese Communist Party claims to be a communist party. Whether it is or not, that's the question you can decide yourself. I look at that question from the point of view of someone who's a Marxist, and I say there are elements in China that are Marxist and communist. There are other elements that are not. And I promote those elements that are against those that are not. I believe the working class, the growth of the working class, the development of industry, the development of infrastructure, the development of welfare services, the development of the economy and society as a whole has been an enormous achievement for humanity in the last 30, 40 years. It's been the most rapid economic development of any country in the history of the world. And I'm impressed with that. Now, what I believe is that the working classes, like Marx argued, the working classes will eventually become conscious of their condition and will seek to take over the running of society and administer it themselves. If you go on to artificial intelligence, I suggest you try this out. You ask yourself, you go on to AI, on Grok, or on Gemini, or on Quen, or on DeepSeek, or on ChatGPT. Ask the question, if China wanted to establish, or if people wanted to establish communism in China, how could they use artificial intelligence to facilitate the administration of society according to the concepts developed by Karl Marx? In other words, the direct administration of the people over their society. And you will discover that it is far easier for the people of China to move towards a genuine democratic communist state than it is for America or England or France or Germany. Because the infrastructure to do so is there, and also the belief system. No system can rule simply by claiming it is one thing and doing something else. In Britain, people have beliefs in democracy, and therefore they try to exercise their democratic rights. When they are thwarted, they shout out, "We're supposed to be a democracy." In China, people say, when they question the existing leadership of the government, local or national, they turn around and say, "You're supposed to be communist. Why aren't you doing this? You're supposed to be socialist. Why aren't you doing this?" Those are the ways in which those are challenged. When the church, when Christians or Muslims challenge the official interpretation in one country or another, they turn around and say, "You're not really practicing Christianity, or you're not really practicing Islam." And so I'm saying the same thing about China and communism. People in China, the masses, the working class in particular, will raise demands themselves to bring about that change. It may take time, but it will take a lot less time in China to establish communism than it will in Britain using Jeremy Corbyn and Sarah Sultana as a mechanism.
They're moving away from communism.
So you say, really?
Yes.
How do you say that?
Through the controlling of through capitalism. They're not.
Well, they've been moving away from capitalism for many years.
So why are they the biggest through PPP? They're the biggest economy in the world. They've outdone.
That means they've raised the living standards of the people. And how have they done it? How have they done it? They've done it by publicly owning all the banks, all transportation, all major transportation, airports, railways, yes, shipbuilding, steel, coal. I'm not saying there aren't independent,
And they control them as well.
dominant companies are publicly owned. Private owned companies are also controlled, are also
That is the
controlled.
epitome of fascism.
Well, that's what you argue. Because you
That is the argument.
some things have similar appearances, but are different in content.
How long have we had
Some
privately owned
things have
companies?
similar appearances, but have different content.
How long have we had privately owned companies?
Fascism, what you're talking about, is you're saying corporatism. In other words, where the trade unions, where the corporations and the state are one single purpose under the control of private enterprise. That's how the Nazis and Mussolini administered their economy. So that's the economic structure of fascism in Italy and in Germany. I'm not saying those are the only possible variants of fascism, but that's how they operate. Now, in China, public ownership of the decisive levers of the economy is controlled by the Communist Party. The Communist Party is torn between different interest groups, some of whom support their personal enrichment and theft of resources, some of whom try their best to represent the interests of the people. None of those forces, in my opinion, are fascistic in their orientation or their intention. None of them.
So, I mean, I am by nature, I'm a pessimist.
You do have that pessimism.
They fancy LGBT agenda in schools.
It seems to me that we live in a recovered world, and I see that we are living in a more divided world. Even this country, over say asylum seekers, it's so divided. We live in a divided world.
What do you think?
I'll let him speak, for God's sake.
You know what I think, Mark.
Come on, say what you want to say. Say what you want to
I
say.
said that. So while China's moving into the ascendant,
Let him finish his sentence. What's the hotel's got to do with it?
It's already the leading economy in the world.
So like I said, taking my point, we live in a very divided world, in my view, and it's going to be more and more divided as I get older, it seems to me. Now let me say, do you think America, the US are going to stand aside while China builds its ascendant? And the point
No, they're not.
And the logical consequence of that is, and I really deep in my heart, war. I see war. I feel war.
There can be no war because it'll end up as a nuclear.
I point this out. You did make this point earlier on. I happen. You're right. The tendency in the world is towards war. And the reason for the tendency towards war is that the United States of America, Europe, they are seeking to maintain their position in the world when automatically their position is declining. China's position is rising and China's allies are gathering around it in order to be part of that game. And America is being pushed aside. America's Donald Trump coming to power is an illustration of the weakness of America. America is in a weak position economically, and it's trying to use its financial power and its military power to hold on to those elements that kept it in control in the past. 1 minute. And of course, the ultimate conflict in the world, which is where the whole of the First World War came from, the whole of the Second World War came from, the whole of the Cold War came from, is a class conflict. It's a conflict about which social system will rule the world. One ruled by the working classes and one ruled by the capitalist class, of which the Zionists are a component part. And the reason why the Zionists and the United States and Zelensky and all their allies are all whipping up the idea of militarization, of massive arms spending, and a massive attempt by the artificial intelligence corporate community in conjunction with the intelligence agencies and the state itself. The reason why they're developing all these instruments is an attempt to overthrow the government of China and thereby do the same thing that happened to the Soviet Union to China. That's the objective of the American policy and European policy today. That's the objective. The objective.
But overthrow how? That's
Overthrowing all the classes.
World War III is already started.
Firstly, the attempt to undermine the position of the Communist Party in China so that the internal opposition rises up, backed by America, like Steve Bannon, Epoch Times, NTV, well, all that you were coming out with this stuff a minute ago. You were saying to me a minute ago, the Uyghurs. The Uyghurs in China are not oppressed.
Look, let's
are not oppressed. But you think they are.
You know they are. You know they are.
A lot of people here think China is ruled by a social credit system. It's not. But huge swathes of the population believe it. Lots of people believe under COVID everyone was locked up in China by the government under orders from Xi Jinping. In fact, Xi Jinping was opposed to the lockdown. The lockdowns emerged from a mass movement from below, and a third of the country never had any lockdowns in China. But they don't tell you that. They don't tell you large parts of China never had lockdowns. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you. They didn't force people to take vaccines in China. Huge numbers of the population. 1 minute. Huge numbers of the population in China did not take vaccines. 1 minute. Fuck hotels. Comedy talk. Hotels. What a lot of shit. Hotels. 30,000 people staying in hotels. What do you think? Who do you think staying in hotels otherwise? Who do you think staying there? The hotels are empty. They're empty. Because the British population, one is they don't have the money to go and stay in hotels themselves. Second is people aren't coming from abroad in the same numbers they used to stay in hotels either. And British people don't stay in hotels because they go and occupy other people's hotels in Spain, including Tommy Robinson. And the Spanish people, before you complain, hang on, before you complain, I'm going to deal directly what you're saying and repeat it again because we've had this out before. British people, including Tommy, go to the Canary Islands, occupy hotels, and drive the hotel workers out of their accommodation. There are thousands of people in Spain and in the Canary Islands sleeping in tents or in ramshackle accommodation who live in that country. They are forced out by British people going and occupying hotels in the Canary Islands. So don't talk shit about how we're paying for it. Who do you think is paying for the state of Pakistan, the state of Somalia, the state of Libya? The British people, by the way, paid to blow up Libya. We blew up Libya. The British government blew up Libya. What government? The British taxpayer. He's saying the British taxpayer. He is saying the British taxpayer pays for the hotels. I'm saying the British taxpayer paid to blow up Libya, paid to blow up Iraq, paid to blow up Syria, and the remnants of that are arriving here. The British taxpayer paid to blow up Afghanistan, and the British taxpayer is now backing Israel. So get your priorities right when you talk about hotels full of foreigners.
Paying tax, that's what we need to be doing. Stop paying fucking tax.
Well, let's just get the facts right about the trajectory here.
Let's get the facts right about World War III.
We've spent more money, the British have spent more money blowing up Afghanistan, blowing up Iraq, blowing up Syria, blowing up Libya, than they spend on hotels in the whole history of Britain.
Vote for any one of those
more money blowing those people up, and they're still blowing them up. We are financing the Israeli government blowing up Palestinians now.
Nobody's arguing with that. Nobody's arguing.
Well, they are arguing because they're saying the hotels are the issue because they have a mobile phone, they have something to eat, and they stay in home.
That's the issue.
That's the argument.
That's the issue.
That's the argument. And all that is Tommy Robinson. Now, Tommy, getting you to talk shit, getting you to repeat the nonsense that Israel wants you to repeat, because that's what distracts from the slaughter they're carrying out. That's what the game is. That's what the game is. Throw shit in your face and make you believe the nonsense. It's the same argument. So what? Who's it going to? Who's it going to? To the hotel owner. To the hotel owner.
He's probably a Zionist.
To
a hotel owner.
in this country.
Tell me this, Sam. Tell me this.
Help these people first.
Were you protesting? Were you protesting when we bombed Afghanistan? Were you protesting when we bombed Syria? Were you protesting when we bombed Iraq? Were you protesting when we bombed Libya? Were you?
Yes.
Were you? Were you? You're not too young.
Right.
How old are you?
Can I answer that question?
Well, there you go. You're not too young.
Can I answer that question? The reason what's going on here, British people,
Well, they're good.
through the media, through the media, what they hear on the media, right? Well, hold it. So all the British media, all the British people can see through TV News is what's happening in the hotels. They won't tell them what's happening in Syria. They won't tell them what's happening in Iraq. So the British people don't know about it. They also don't know.
We blew up the
They
hotels
also don't know.
in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Iraq.
The British
We blew
people,
them up.
yes, and I agree with you. The British people don't know that the Zionists have captured this country. They've captured America. That the Israeli lobby groups have captured all our politicians on both sides of the Atlantic. Right, it's true. Now, hold on. So, getting back to what he said, World War III is already started. China is the target. So what do? They target the countries that are feeding China with the commodities. Iran gives 80%, China gets 80% of its oil from Iran. It gets its gas
Exchange.
for money.
Exchange to get resources.
Yeah, right. But hold on. Hold on.
People on the street, out in the street, those kids who've got no money and are starving, hungry, those people out in the streets, we should be paying for them. We should be paying. You go on the street, the house in the hotels. During COVID, they found cases at hotels. During COVID, they found cases of people that are about home.
Veterans.
English people on the street. You go look on the streets. You go look on the streets. What about
it?
So you're housing these illegals while you got all these people
They're not illegal.
Thank you, William. Look, the World War III. Let's get back to World War III. The question that this gentleman asked, right?
Don't help them.
All you do, with these arguments, all you do is fall for the trap of the establishment. The establishment, those people aren't wearing masks. That's why you need to stay at home. Those people haven't taken their injection. That's why you need to stay at home. Why don't you go to COVID?
During COVID, they housed all these hotels. During COVID, they housed the hotels.
So therefore, exactly. That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. So therefore, it's not because the hotels are full of migrants, the people on the streets. It's because the landlord class exercises enormous power over politics. That's why. And it's their interest to serve. And therefore they couldn't give a shit. They want people to be homeless on the streets. Because that encourages those people who've got mortgages to pay the mortgage and to pay the rent to the landlord. No, you can't. No, you can't.
So you don't want to hear how World War III's already started?
No. Because I said it already.
Say the future of humanity relies on China.
The future of humanity relies upon the fate of the people of the world taking control over their lives.
Yes.
And taking control over their lives, I believe that the people in China are the best positioned to take control over their society and administer society in a way which aligns with my own philosophy. I think they are the best positioned to take over because they administer the most advanced forms of modern production, and that will allow them to create a livelihood for the people administered by themselves, self-administered by themselves. I don't mean they have good trade unions. I don't mean they have good trade unions, but potentially they could have good trade unions. The law in China says all workplaces, state and private, the workers have the right to elect the management and control the operational processes in the workplaces. Every single workplace in China, that law applies to it. It's not implemented, but it applies. And therefore, if the people exercise their legal rights, just the same as in Britain, we've got the right to speak at Speaker's Corner. We've got the right to speak at Speaker's Corner. We have the right to free speech. Most people do not exercise their right to free speech. If they were to exercise their right to free speech, they would discover that the entire state would be mobilised to try and stop them exercising their right to free speech. We have free speech as long as we don't exercise it, as long as it's only a tiny minority. In China, when the people decide to exercise their legal rights, just the same as if people in Britain decide to exercise their legal right to free speech, exercise their legal right to go on strike, to demonstrate protest, then you could make the country ungovernable. The Chinese people, when they do that, the good thing about it is, in my opinion, is that if they realised what legally they're allowed to do in China, you would have a genuine socialist society. They are legally. Well, that's because you oh, fuck us.
People, we don't do that.
You can
We
see
believe
it written
China,
all over your face.
We're all sheep.
What you're trying to do?
No, in China is no freedom of speech.
The gentleman here says in China there's no freedom of speech. I tell you what, if you go to China and you discuss with ordinary Chinese people, they have more sophisticated ideas, more sophisticated opinions, not only about China, but also about the West than people do in general in the West. Is that not free speech?
No, it isn't free speech.
What is
because in China,
what is free speech? You mean stand on a platform and speak? You mean stand on a platform and speak? You've come from China to London and started speaking. How many people have you seen speaking here? In all the time you've been here, how many people have you seen speaking here? 30? 30? No, speaking. The same 30 people for 40 years. For 40 years. People in Britain do not exercise their right to free speech. They do not exercise, and when they do exercise their right to free speech, holding a piece of paper on Parliament Square, they get arrested. When we exercised our right to free speech at Speaker's Corner during the lockdown, the police chased us and hounded us out of the park. So the idea that there's no free speech in China and free speech in England is a lot of bullshit.
Right, I will say this about the Chinese people. They don't really care about free speech because they believe there's no money to be made out of it. Whereas actually, through free speech, you have the freedom of expression, the freedom to think. That is what will create your society, to create new inventions and new ideas. But the Chinese don't seem to have worked it out.
New inventions now, new ideas.
Yeah, but they actually, most Chinese people say,
what's going on.
what will we make? What money will we make out of this?
Really?
I'm not saying
Really?
the Chinese are.
Is that what they all say? I don't think so.
They don't seem to be suppressing
This
this
thing is about exchanging
like they are in the
ideas.
West. But it's not a big thing like it is here.
How is free speech a big thing here? People are just bullshitting about free speech.
America's
They
got it in their
say,
second
go in and shout. Yes, one person, and I'm paid by the government to say by the Chinese government.
First Amendment.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
First Amendment is free speech in America. It's protected by the Second Amendment. The First Amendment in America is free speech, protected by the Second
Yeah,
Amendment.
but is it protected?
No, it's been
Is it
destroyed.
protected? No, it's not
It
protected.
has been destroyed, but China does never
People
have.
just the other day.
Where is China?
George Galloway the other day.
Where
He's
is-
running a campaign against NATO. Gets cut off X.
Where
X
has
to
China
free
ever had a
speech.
First Amendment? It's never had a First Amendment.
First Amendment for what?
Free speech, the First Amendment. Protected by the Second Amendment? Was it protected by the
Is
Second
it
Amendment?
protected by reality is the question. You can have whatever piece of paper you like. They had a democratic constitution in the United States of America since what, 1776. Didn't stop them having slaves,
No, that's because the Zionists took control.
right?
And
They had a free speech and democracy in America in the 1950s and 60s. Didn't stop them having a Kalama, right?
Would China allow its citizens, its population, to be armed like they do in America? No! The answer is no!
Well, the fact of the matter is,
And that's my answer. I believe that China is a free country.
between 1976, I'm answering your question, what you just said. Between 1976 and 19, sorry, 19, I answer you. You talked about the right to bear arms.
Of course, the Second Amendment defends your free speech. Well, I don't see that in China.
You said you don't see that in China. Between 1966 and 1976, people's militias were everywhere in China.
We've got
We're everywhere in China. I lived in East Germany. Every child used to learn to use weapons. My ex-girlfriend used to learn how to drive a tank and throw a hand grenade when they're at school.
Well,
right?
members of the public are allowed to carry
Members
arms.
of the public.
Yeah, I'm not just talking.
They had factory,
America has militia.
They had factory
It has all three
militias.
people that
They had
can bear
factory
arms.
militias. However, the idea in America is different. The idea is anybody who's got the money to buy some weapons can buy a weapon. That is not a democratic mechanism of controlling weaponry. All that is for lunatics who can buy an AK-47 to blow a lot of people up. That's got nothing to
Don't you
do.
trust the people?
I don't trust the general population, all of them, to have weapons at any time,
Marxists
whatever
believe
weapons they want.
central
No, I
control
don't
comes
believe
from
that.
government.
I don't believe
I
that.
trust the
Because
people.
otherwise, all you get, well, in other words, someone goes and blows a lot of people up at school because they got these laws. That's perfectly all right.
People on drugs.
That's
and they've
perfectly
been
all right.
They brainwash people to do these things in the West.
So you're saying any
All these school shootings, in America have been manipulated by the CIA. Yeah, most of them, virtually all of them.
And so is that okay then?
Well, no, the CIA.
Make it all right?
The CIA should be abolished.
And then,
Well, look, that's not doing
and then,
Well, you don't have a centrally controlled government.
and if you've got a local militia,
Federal government is the enemy of the
Let me
people.
answer. If you've got a local militia, for example, in the hills,
Well, you have in America.
answer. Every time I say start a sentence.
It's not just the militia, it's
I'm
the
trying to
people.
answer you.
People.
I'm trying to, can I respond to you? Right? So, if you've got the Blue Ridge Mountains, like a community there that says, okay, all the women will be enslaved, like, what's that TV show? Handmaid's Tale. There are such communities in America.
Big brother.
And all black people in our town should be enslaved. And we're going to pass a law on this basis in our local community. And we're going to enforce it with submachine guns. Is that all right?
No, because in the Constitution it says all men are created equal. And now the Civil War, which was the most bloodiest Civil War, it says, and it's the bloodiest Civil War in the Western world, right? And so therefore, the Constitution is clear that all men are created equal, and now black people are allowed to carry the
All
guns.
men are created
Didn't say that,
equal.
said they were 3/5 human.
Was there a colour bar in America 100 years after the Civil War?
Yes.
So all men are created equal.
Yeah, but in the
You
Bill
can have
of
a piece
Rights,
of paper saying you're all
it
created
took
equal,
time, but
but
they're
if you
getting
put out a
there.
gun, you're not equal.
You talk about China hasn't got unions, and they will get there eventually, and America is getting there eventually.
Create a standard.
I'm not having a row with you about
The
every
Bill of
hang on, I'm not having a row with you.
No,
about
I'm not having a row with you.
You are.
I'm not.
You are. Every time I start a sentence, you're attacking me. So it's not a debate.
Yeah, but I can't get a word in.
You can't get a word in because you think you should be speaking,
Well,
right? Which is fine, you can speak, but not while I'm speaking, not all the time. There you go.
Sometimes get a bit
I haven't even got
Hang on. Piers Corbyn here has just come out of detention, I believe. I think he'd like to talk about that question. Thank you. Well, we've got a poster. Shall I put it up first or just speak?
Just speak.
Just speak. Someone want to hold it anyway? Yeah, you hold it. All right. Well, you're going to speak as well.
Yeah, hold on, let's chat if I can.
Tommy Robinson is the boss out there, MI5. Yeah, that's
Agreed, we all know.
Hello, what a fun to be here. Speakers call. Oh, recording. Who's going to record me? This is Nicholas.
No, at the beginning, what was it like? At the beginning, I didn't get a word in edgeways. We was going to debate about China.
You should have done the 2 minute thing.
No,
That would have been better.
just get a word in edgeways. I mean, in the end, I've got to change.
It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult dynamic. Someone's on a pathway and someone's
Okay. Vertical, yeah. Are we ready?
Yes.
All right, start again. 5, no, not comply.
How was all day breakfast?
Well, what a beautiful day this is. Oh, I didn't have any breakfast. In the pre-sale, that is.
20th arrest.
Yes, this is the 7th of September 2025. And it's almost a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day because I'm out of Nick. It's my 20th arrest since arrested here on May the 16th, 2020.
91st one,
Right here. And I was in and out the system in a record 57 minutes. Under an hour, completely crazy. Look, I was one of 900 they arrested. No stations.
Parliament Square.
Yes, no stations. They had the whole of Millbank closed, Millbank Road, with 20 desks like a big airport, where everyone was going in one by one in each desk. Your arresting officer, a pseudo-state arresting sergeant, that sort of thing, and just processed it. And then I'm given street bail to come back to Plumstead Police Station on the 27th of November at 2 p.m. It's going to be all day there with 900 people they've got to process.
So they ain't got enough cells to put you all in.
No,
Is that a new jacket you're wearing?
no, this is my new jacket, yes. But I experienced their tremendous support. People gave me tremendous support when I was
We
being
got another
arrested.
MI5 star.
Well, look,
We all know who
thinking about it, that there was so much cheering and shouting that the people even in that square resisted. Very quietly.
They started it.
Don't care. Go have your meeting over there.
I'm just admiring your new jacket.
If the people in the square had resisted, the police couldn't have been able to do it. And if that Palestine Solidarity March had, instead of stopping in Whitehall, came to Parliament Square, we would have defeated the police, absolutely. And you have to think about what divisions are going on inside the Palestine movement. Frankly, everybody should have been there. But it was a tremendous experience. So, bugger off. Go over
Tell us
there.
what happened. Tell us what happened.
In Cardiff, well,
It's the Palestine movement infiltrated. It's the Palestine movement infiltrated.
well, of course it is. Yeah, everything is infiltrated. Well, look, when we had the freedom movement in Cardiff, the police tried to arrest me, and there were so many ex-miners around that the police just ran away.
Yeah, they could stop it. You're right.
They could not arrest me then, and we almost stopped
There was a
them
bit
in-
of that yesterday.
Yeah, there was a bit of that. We almost stopped them in Sheffield. We had a big fracas in Sheffield. But frankly, what I'm saying is the PSC ought to be supporting all these people who have been arrested for defending free speech. That's what it's about. It's sections 10 and 11 of the Human Rights Act are about free speech and the right to organise. That's what we're talking about. So next time people, well, one bail condition is none of us are allowed to attend another PSC rally until then. However, we need to have rallies to support those of us who've been arrested.
Yeah, quite
That's the
right.
point. 900 arrested now.
And you guys should be welcomed on the main platform.
Well, of course.
And the whole demo should be shouting in support of the forbidden zone.
Absolutely correct.
Whereabouts are you?
So once again, Heiko's right.
Twice again.
He called for a long
Now there's two questions arising. What was Sadiq Khan doing? Sadiq Khan's in charge of the police. He must have authorised this insane police presence. And he says he supports Gaza, does he? I don't know. He certainly doesn't support any protests for Gaza. I mean, we should be demonstrating next week or the week after outside Sadiq Khan's office and call him to account. Call him to account and drop all these potential charges against the 900. I haven't been charged yet, but we've given
No charge.
we're warned that we might be charged under Section 13 of the Terrorism Act, which is about posters and adverts and stuff like that.
14 or 30.
13. It's not as
Have
bad
you
as
got the paper? Have you got the paper on you?
Yes, I have. You want to study it, but don't lose it.
Is it supporting prescribed organisations?
It's expressing things which could be interpreted as meaning the person expressing it, holding up the poster, could be a supporter or member of a terrorist
Brother
organisation.
get arrested. He voted against it. Why doesn't he get himself arrested?
Who? Well, there's a question.
Palestine Action.
Yeah, there's a question for that. Anyway, that, you know, the Labour left ought to be supporting us. Of course they should, or rather the ex-Labour left. It's a freedom of speech and organisation issue. And if they get away with this, there'll be attacks on everybody. A whole lot more attacks. And the important thing to notice about us, though, is that our message is getting through. Namely, we're calling on the Palestine and freedom movements to unite in common cause. And that, you should applaud that, guys. And you see, the powers that be have done everything to try and separate us. When we were arrested first here on May the 16th, 2020, we were branded immediately as far right. They've always trying to describe us as far right and Palestine people as far left or something.
I wasn't there by that time.
Now, so where's going next? as we said, every crisis
not
is
to
being used
conditions
to
attached to
bring
street
us
sale,
into
not to attend
nuclear
planned or
ideology.
unplanned protests, spontaneous or otherwise, in support of Palestine.
I'm not going to stop him, is he? He's going to get nicked again.
Grounds for imposing these protests are designed to breach terrorism offences, and any attendance will put the subject at risk of committing further offences.
That is an attack on free speech.
If they are not in the vicinity of Palestine action demonstration, then this will mitigate such a risk.
That is a 100% attack on free speech.
If you give it all the countries DGID, you can stop a boat
That's by a
crossing
Bolshevik
the channel is insane.
Progressive lefty.
But we say we'll have our own march on Saturday, our own rally for health and freedom, and unite in common cause against the common enemy, the Zionist World Economic Forum, that wants to bring in dystopia here. We have to go around that. Tommy Todd is there to divide, and the opposition to him. We're anti-Tommy Todd. We like illegal immigrants. They're just, what they're saying is another divided thing. They're there as a charade, a game, to keep people away from fighting for the truth. So, well, I think we can almost end there. Yes, so we're not supporting those other two demos. We want money for leaflets, by the way, where we are. Where's the box? Where's the box? Money for leaflets. We'll need more leaflets next week, and banners. And I'll repeat, every crisis is being used to bring in DTID. And the next thing to write in your diary, apart from the next Saturday, is October the 15th, Maida Hill Place, the corner of Elgin Avenue and Harrow Road, 12 noon. The 50th anniversary to the minute when we were rehoused at the barricades in Elgin Avenue. Because we're going to need action to defeat the enemy. Begging politicians to do something good for us, or begging Tommy Todd and a Zionist Tommy Todd to save us. This is insane. The idea that a Zionist is going to help anything in Britain is crazy. They want us to crush. So, come along. Write that in your diary, October the 15th, Maida Hill Place. And I think
whereabouts in Maida Hill?
Maida Hill Place is the corner of Harrow Road and Elgin Avenue.
Oh, I know that.
You know it.
Where the old Burtons used to be.
And I want to say as well, yesterday, it was brilliant how we got we did our marching song, you know, the marching song to the Marseillaise, and Bongo Nick here did a superb video of me being arrested and dragged into the police van. And I want to say, it's incredible, his video. Quick round of applause.
Well, here's, I come from Maida Hill.
There you are.
Yeah,
We'll have you
Road.
on the platform there. Yes, locals allowed. And any other demos, anyone knows about any others, please bring them along. Bring yellow boards there. They can stand there. Why not? It could be a great thing. We're against the new pandemic exercise.
When is this meet in Maida Hill?
On
What date is the meet in Maida
the
Hill?
15th of October.
What time?
Wednesday, 12 noon. Well, they might try anything. So we've got to be ready. And what are we going to say to everybody around the world? What are we saying?
Resist! Defy! Do not comply!
Thank you.
Can I have a speak?
Yes.
Right. Piers has been talking about the Tommy Tards, yeah? Yeah. So the Tommy Tards are all part. Now, what's going on? I feel sorry for the British people because this is a very sophisticated psychological operation being perpetrated by GB News, right? By YouTube. Did I say YouTube? I mean YouTube, right? And it was all started by Sue Ellen Braverman, who became a Zionist, but she's married a South African Zionist. And she tried to get the Muslim marches that were peaceful through central London banned because they were exposing the genocide in Gaza. But now we've got agenda where GB News is everything evil is Islam, right? Everything evil. I sympathise with the people outside the hotels. but they are being manipulated by what we call a sophisticated psyop. GB News is pushing this. Who owns GB News? Zionists. Who owns YouTube? Zionists. They control the narrative, they control the media. It's a very, very powerful message.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're not talking TikTok, we're talking, well, because they're all YouTubers outside the hotels. And Street Mike was outside the prison. Outside, where we've got an anti-free speech, MI5. Don't ignore him, because he's here to,
now. What's going on?
right, he's here to frustrate our free speech. MI5 Steve. So no, I can handle it. So let's go when Street Mike was outside the prison where Tommy Robinson got released. Can you stop? Yeah, leave it, forget it.
Now you get your own punishment.
Thank you.
Getting your own punishment.
So Street Mike was outside the prison when Tommy supposedly got released. But I'm telling you, Tommy Robinson was never in prison. He goes on Rule 43. And on Rule 43, you are isolated for 23 and a half hours a day in Belmarsh. Half hours exercise in isolation. Nobody can prove to me, because nobody can see him, that Tommy Robinson was in there. So all the prison governors.
Why do they need to do a thing like that? It's nonsense.
Because Tommy Robinson is a cocaine addict.
But why do they need to do it? What's the point of them doing
he couldn't
it?
cope.
What's the point?
To get him, this is how they fund him. He gets millions of pounds of donations.
Yes, but it doesn't matter. He's still going to
So
prison.
Tommy Robinson, right, comes out with his ginger beard, right, and his hair all rustled. Street Mike, who's a Zionist shill, is outside there.
Not a Zionist shill. Not a Zionist.
Are you pro Tommy Robinson now?
I know Street Mike.
I know, so do I.
Zionist shill.
He's pro.
Not.
He's there outside. He was covering up with MI5 Steve.
Might not like what he does. It doesn't make him a Zionist shill.
Well, is Tommy Robinson a Zionist shill?
Tommy Robinson is a Zionist.
Well, Street Mike can't be. He loves it. He absolutely worships the ground he
I'm
lives.
not so sure about that.
Well, I am, right? But anyway, we'll agree to differ on that one. Right, so what I'm saying to you,
Subject matter, not the individuals.
is that Tommy Robinson, right, is here, like Pierce said, to divide the people, to get the people to believe, he believes in immigration, he believes in multiple immigration, like Nigel Farage does, right? But what they don't want is Islamists here. They want to see all the Islamists back, because Israel goes to war with Islam generally police, and they need allies. And the Islamists are not bowing down to the Zionist agenda. Not all of them. That's why there's so many children in Gaza. There is 400. That's what it's ready. What's that? 1980.
So now they should surrender?
The people.
Isn't that very grateful that they're created?
What the people
Surrender all the kids to be blown up by the
This
Israelis.
guy he is a Zionist. We have got three stages of Zionism. Liberal Zionism was original Zionism before 1948. It's been nice. Then we got supremacy. Zionism after 1948 up to about 2001 when we had 9/11. And then it turned into barbarous Zionism where you exterminate populations and old people. This is where we are now. We're in barbarous Zionism. So Zionism is the ideology. Right. Anyway, I'm here to give a message to the British people. Don't be taken in by Tommy Robinson. You're being used in a sophisticated psychological operation. Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson are pro-immigration in general. Right?
didn't even interrupt you.
And the left allow me to talk here, and I appreciate it. But we know the proper
This is
left.
Speaker's Corner.
I
so
believe
do I.
there is no left and right. There is only right and wrong. I believe that politics in
You
this
can stand on it. I don't care who stands on it.
like it is in America. Zionists have infiltrated both sides, all sides, left, right and centre, right? And like they have in America, they bought and paid for all the senators, all the congressmen, not much.
Before you were finishing.
They've been bought cheaply. And in this
Before you were
country,
finishing.
and in this country, 80% of the Conservative MPs were Conservative friends of Israel. 35% of the Labour Party were the Labour friends of Israel before the general election. The Lib Dems were bought and paid for Liberal Democrat friends of Israel. And when Nigel Farage
Lost control of the meeting.
when Nigel Farage got his 5 members, he created the British Friends of Israel. Where did he get the money for 600 candidates? Yeah,
The Israelis.
he got it from the Israelis, yes, and also to fund for the leaflet. Right, so, you know, Nigel Farage is a false prophet. That's really all I've got to say. Thanks for letting me have a word.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Now, being so video that. Will it go up then?
Ready. It's on. Done.
I still want to talk to you. I still want to talk to you
Another time.
about Marxism.
Okay, another day.
Right, so we can have that debate.
Of course we can have that. Any debate you like. As long as I win.
Well, as long as you let me get an... Oh, listen, I had to give you an hard time in the end because she was giving
I
me an
didn't
hard
give you a
time.
hard time. I never give you a hard time.
Are you Instagram or Facebook? What are you on?
He got a fan.
Facebook.
I'm asking you.
Fan. He's
I
after
don't do platforms that are controlled
how old are
by
you?
Zionists. I'm on Rumble and I'm on BitChute, but BitChute you can't view it in this country. Right, it's been taken. Yeah.